Hey, what's up everybody? Infamous NYC coming back here with another build video for no CP BGs. This is another Necromancer build that I was looking at that I kind of liked. You can see the stats right here. Magic at 13k, 28k HP. This is a no CP. This is a heavy armor build. 30k into stamina. Here's our recoveries. Here are the pot. Maxing out at 4653 weapon damage. In heavy armor, still coming in just shy of 43% weapon critical. 25% HP. So my Necromancer is a Nord. I do recommend being a Nord for Necromancer, whether you're playing Magicka or Stamina. So this one is called Malubeth's Revenge. I haven't seen a Malubeth build in a long time, so I decided to put one together. All points into Stamina. This, of course, is in Cyrodiil. We are running the Warrior Mundus. In terms of the items, like I said, we are running Malubeth. We're running 2-piece Malubeth medium. And we're running Fury on this particular setup. We're running 5 Fury, and then we're rocking 5 Fury, and then we're running Fury with Werewolf Hide, and it's gonna be all stamina, all robust with weapon image. Double maces for the pen as well as for the burst. Typically, you're gonna go 2 maces for if you're looking for more upfront burst. You're gonna go with 2 maces for the pen. And of course, on your back bar, you can run an axe. You can either run an infused axe, probably with a Magicka glyph. If you're having a little bit of trouble with your Magicka, you shouldn't, because we only really have 2 Magicka abilities, three Magicka abilities that we're casting. So if you're having a little bit of Magicka sustain issues, then go with a infused with a Magicka glyph on the back bar. Because I typically, when I run dual wield, unless I'm like below 4k or like maybe like 3500 with just brutality up, then I'll typically run it on the back bar. But for the most part, if you're not cycling to your back bar more like relatively often, then you end up with a lot of downtime for the glyph on the back bar. So since we have really good max weapon damage for a no CP build, I would say I wouldn't worry about the extra 200 that you would get if you ran it from the back bar, because you're typically not going to be cycling back to your back bar all that often, because most of these abilities have long durations. So I'd run it, if like I said, I would more than likely run it with a Magicka glyph if you're having Magicka sustain problems, or you can go with like an infuse and then maybe run like for what's called poison. Maybe run like a poison glyph. Or you can run poison in your back bar. Like I guess whatever you find more worthwhile. You can rock maybe a shock glyph, or that typically would run that. On the main offhand, you could run poison. Really depends on what you want to run on the back bar. In terms of the glyphs, I typically do go. I think I had too much HP, so I wanted to hit at least 30k. So I have one triglyph. 1 max stamina, and then another max stamina. So this build, I think I'm only running 1, and I think it was just because I didn't want to lose more. I didn't want to lose more max Magicka, because I do have at least 1, 2, and 3 Magicka abilities, and then everything else on the small pieces should be stamina. In pen, just about everything except for the chest. Chest should be reinforced. So we are running werewolf. This is going to give you a lot of uptime. The primary reason that I chose this was because Necromancer doesn't have a stun. So I did not use the other morph of Dawnbreaker that gives you access to the extra 300 weapon damage. I really don't feel it's needed, primarily because I don't want to use, I really didn't find room just to place a stun. So you're going to have high uptime with the ultimates, because 1, you're Nord, so Nord is going to generate extra ultimate whenever they take damage via Stalwart. 2, we're running on the Werewolf High. Says when you take damage, you generate an additional 5 ultimate every 5 seconds. And then 3, we're running necrotic potency, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 corpses. And of course, whenever you kill an opponent, so that's going to be a lot of ultimate that you're going to generate. The second thing is that whenever you do basically either use Mortal Coil or pull with necrotic potency, you're going to activate corpse consumption, which is going to give you another 10 ultimate every 10 seconds. And then of course, whenever you secure a kill, you're going to generate additional ultimate via the Alliance War passive, Combat Frenzy. So it's a lot of ultimate plus your normal ultimate. You know, you generate 3 ultimate every second. So it's a lot of ultimates that's going to give you a lot of uptime to be able to CC your opponent fairly often. Maybe not on cooldown, but you're able to put in a lot of bursts. Typically, you're gonna make sure Blast Bones is up, heavy attack into a Venom Skull, into a DB, and then of course this is basically going to be your dot. Skeletal Archer, as you can see, they're coming in at 3,000. So that's it. That's a 24k dot in no CP, right? Because it hits every 2 seconds. And then of course it actually increases each time the archer deals damage. Its next attacks will do 5% more damage than the previous attack. So it's going to be a little bit of bonus. It's like 150. It's not really that big. Effective weapon damage on this build. Let me just make sure that Death Kneel is not in there. It is. So it's drop Death Kneel. So this build comes in at 8k. You got 1500 from the passive for physical pen. And then of course, while you have a debuff on you, you're going to increase for an additional 8%. You're going to heal for an additional 8%. And then of course, you're going to gain damage reduction from dots by 15%. And then Undead Confederate is going to give you an additional 200 recovery. So this is the recoveries with a pot and the passive up. Passive should be up all the time because you're able to proc the passive with Skeletal Archer, Spirit Guardian, as well as Blast Bones. So there's no reason for that passive to be down, because you should always have your armor buff up, because this is going to give you healing and damage reduction with Spirit Guardian. And then you've got your damage from Skeletal Archer, as well as Blast Bones. On the front bar, I do recommend running Mortal Coil. You can see the tooltip on the Mortal Coil. That is a 21k Mortal Coil over the course of 12 seconds. And it provides you stamina, and it increases your healing done by 3%. Dead in Pain is a really good ability to keep on your front bar. For obviously pulling, it's going to give you heals as well as give you generate ultimate. It is free. The other thing is that it's going to give you some damage reduction on your front bar. So you get an additional 3%, besides the 25k resistances, and of course being able to situationally block, you're going to get an additional damage reduction on your front bar, as well as generating ult. Of course, Camouflage Hunter for the passive. Passive 2% more weapon damage, or is it 3%? I think it's 2% in the Fighters Guild. Let's go right here, go Fighters Guild. So you generate, and of course, whenever you kill someone who is undead or a werewolf, and of course, more people are running Vamp, so it's going to generate a little bit of extra ultimate for you. And then you generate, and of course, you get an additional 3% plus the passive, so we get 6% more weapon damage here because of having DB. And then of course, whenever you hit somebody from behind, you gain 5 seconds of Major Berserk. So make sure to pay attention to your position. And then Skeletal Archer on the back bar. Channeled Acceleration, you could go with either morph. If you go with the only reason I didn't choose the other morph was because I don't think you'd have the magic of sustain to kind of proc it on demand, because you're typically going to be utilizing at least 5k. So you might be able to swap this for Race Against Time, and then go with Rally. And if you did go that route, then I would recommend that you run a powered on your back bar with extra healing. So if you were going to go, let's just put that in there. If you were going to go that route, then you make sure Legendary. You can go like with an axe for the bleed when you rotate to your back bar, and then go with powered so that you get the extra healing. Where's it? Right there. Right, increase healing done by 9%, so that when you rotate to your back bar and you'll lose a little bit of weapon damage, you won't lose the maximum amount of healing if you were to go with Rally. And see what that Rally tooltip looks like. So two-handed, if you were to go Rally, then your tooltip is coming in at 4682, and that's fully buffed. So like I said, this is Fury, so you're going to be running the Fury stacks, and the way that it works, it says, is when you take damage, your weapon damage is increased by 30 for 5 seconds, and it says this stacks up to 20 times. So Necromancer can really has the ability to sit in the fights. They're very tanky, primarily due to their massive amounts of damage reduction, as well as their massive amounts of healing, which is what makes them overpowered. I talked about this in several videos about why Necromancer, especially Stamina Necromancer, overperforms many other classes. And it's primarily right here. Once they decoupled Mortal Coil from being a Magicka ability and made it free, and then on top of that made it based off of whichever was greater, your weapon damage or your spell damage, and your max stamina or max magicka, it really made stamina necromancers overperform because they have a lot better utility and damage than magicka necromancer, and you can stack higher weapon damage than you can typically spell damage on a magicka necromancer. Besides the fact that magicka necromancer only has, you know, blast bones and skull and venom skull, but in any event, so the backbar, like I said, is for this particular setup is forward momentum. I ran challenge acceleration for the minor force and of course for the mobility, because this is a heavy armor, so it gives you access to major expedition for a longer duration of time. And of course the armor buff that I'm using is summoner's armor. Backbar is ultimate is entirely up to you. If you want the extra damage, you can go this route, or you can just go ahead and rotate with what's it called, Sigic Order, and then just run Temporal Guard for the additional 8% on the back bar whenever you rotate. It's entirely up to you, whatever works for you. Kind of gives you the option for the extra 30% damage, or you can just go straight for the stun if your opponent, you know, doesn't have CC immunity. In terms of the food, I think for every build that I ran max stat on, you're going to want to switch over to Bewitched Sugar Skull. So I'm probably going to have to update all that on Battle of the Build, because most of the builds I think I did run Tri-Stat food on, I have not updated. So feel free to check out most of the builds. I'll be updating this for Dragonhold. So I've posted most of these builds I actually still do play. If you've had the opportunity to check out my Twitch, it's Infamous. You can see it right here, Infamous NYC. I'll be streaming probably this morning, probably like in the next hour or so. I'm putting together two videos. So yeah, so like I said, for most of the builds where you may run Tri-Stat food, there's no point in not running Gold Bewitched Sugar Skulls, because it gives you the additional 462 health recovery, which is weird. They did make it more expensive, but it's not that much far expensive that you couldn't make use of it. Kind of overperforms in my opinion, but previously you had to choose between like the recovery food and max stat, like via Artaeum or running Clockwork, and then they nerfed these, and then they subsequently brought in like max stat with HP recovery, which is really strong, because obviously if you have really good if you have HP recovery, then you're not healing as much. So that kind of helps either your magical or stamina recovery, because you're not utilizing, you know, your stats as much to heal yourself. So having good HP recovery does affect, you know, your max stamina or your max magicka build, because then you end up having to heal for less. This is basically, I'm gonna actually be playing this build today. Okay, the reason I chose Malubeth again was because, like I said, this is more of a very heavy hitting brawler build, and the way that Fury works is that you have to be able to sustain in a fight, otherwise the stacks will drop after 5 seconds if you're not taking damage. And so that's kind of what Malubeth allows you to do. It says when you take damage, it says you have a 6% chance to create a beam that steals HP. You can see the tooltip right there in no CP. It's 60, almost 6,500 over the course of 4 seconds. While the beam holds, you gain major vitality, and which increases your healing by 30%. The beam breaks if the person is further than 8 meters away, and of course this can happen every 6 seconds. So basically that increases all of your heals from like Mortal Coil, from Spirit Guardian, from the heals that you get from Necrotic Potency, and as well as the heals whenever you utilize a pot. So that's kind of why I chose it, to allow you to really hold on to those Fury stacks and not having to take any sort of line of sight. And of course it does give you extra healing, so that you're basically not forced into having to line of sight because you're taking too much damage. That major vitality does come in handy for this particular build. In terms of your rotation, you're going to be rotating through Blast Bones, and you can see the tooltip right there on your Venom Skull. Basically it gives you kind of a range spammable, a little bit of burst, and then you basically your dot from Skeletal Archer, and then most of your, you know, your burst combo is going to be between winding up a heavy attack into making sure your Blast Bones is landing, and then go right into a DB. In terms of your flex, if you felt that you really didn't need, this would probably be a flex that you can get rid of. And let's say maybe you wanted to go with the dual wield execute. That's always an option. You can either go with Steel Tornado or go with Whirling Blades, or you can see the tooltip is right there, and then maybe move. I would recommend keeping mortal coil on your front bar so that you can always have it up. Very first thing that you want to do is make sure mortal coil is up. It's very important to have mortal coil up to help you sustain it in the fight, because you're not going to get enough healing from Spirit Guardian. Your bread and butter healing is coming from mortal coil. So make sure the very first thing that you do is cast blast bones so that you can pull the healing via mortal coil, and then go back right into your rotating heavy attacks, making sure that you're keeping your dot up with Skeletal Archer, and then light attacking into a Venom Skull, and then keep rotating your blighted and waiting for a DB. If you were to do that, you could drop, like I said, you could drop Skeletal Archer and then either use Steel Tornado, whichever morph that you prefer, so that you have access to an execute, and just move Necrotic Potency to your back bar and then put an execute on your front bar. That's basically this build. I will be playing this build this morning. I'm going to be streaming for like the next 6 or 7 hours. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section. Be sure to check out Battle of Build. It is your #1 source for no CP PvP builds, as I primarily do no CP BGs. If you like the content, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. If this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future content. And if you like the content, excuse me, Jesus, if you like the content, be sure to hit the like button so that the video gets recommended to other people. Appreciate you watching. Take care. God bless.